Okay, why is tarot reading good and or bad? 5 reasons for each. So I'm going to start this video off with a discussion on the negative side of tarot reading, and then I'm going to move it over to the positive side of tarot reading. I suppose negative and positive are a little bit more accurate, in my opinion, than good and bad, but for some people, good and bad works better, so I'll use that in the title. It's simpler. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump into this now. The very first point I want to make that's kind of a negative is that some people will tell you that, and that are kind of tied to religious belief sets that are very rigid. They'll tell you that tarot reading ties you in with spirits, or perhaps it's attempting to divine the future. And I won't say that I know that that's true or false. I'm going to discuss that kind of from a different point of view for you to consider. The first thing I want to tell you is that I am a Christian. I consider myself to be a spiritual Christian. I am not a rigidly dogmatic Christian, except about very, very specific things that I have internalized that I think are very, very important. So what is it about this kind of spirit idea that I want to convey to you that's on the negative side? It's fairly simple, okay? Either you believe there are spirits or you don't. It's that simple. You either believe that the world is full of spirits and there are spirits moving through the world, or you think that that's just a bunch of garbage and these are just some cards. Okay, so if you have the second point of view, this point doesn't matter at all, does it? It's just a random set of cards that come out and they tell a story, which is still very entertaining, but it doesn't necessarily involve energy or spirits or anything of that sort. Okay, so let's look at the first point of view, that it's possible that spirits or energy might be involved with this. Perhaps you're tapping into it as you do things, or perhaps the person that's doing the reading for you is doing that. Okay, so I just want to point out that if that is the case, if you believe that, you have to understand that if your belief set tells you that there are spirits throughout the world and that they're connected to people or energies or places or cards or whatever else, that doing anything can bring spirits into your life. Walking through a graveyard can subject you to spirits. If something is overly negative and it wants to be around, then it can. The point I want to make is if you have that first point of view, then you need to realize that you have a strength to you, and in the same way that you go through your day meeting with people and shaking hands, and by the way, there are people that are very superstitious about shaking hands because it's a conveyance of sorts between people, but people are tied to spirit. That shaking hands is another thing that can deliver spiritual energies between people. That you have to be ready for that battle. And if you are strong in your mindset, and if you understand ways of keeping yourself clear, then you don't need to worry about it. And really, I think that's what this is about, is people don't understand and they don't want to take responsibility for keeping themselves clear. And of course, if you do the right things and you live a good life and you're strong-minded, for me, since I told you I'm a Christian, all I have to do is say the words Jesus Christ, and I feel that the area around me is pretty clear, that it's pretty clean. Some people use smoke, and I won't say that that's good or bad. Some people contact their ancestors. I won't say that's good or bad. I'll just say that there are ways that each one of us has to deal with what we consider to be the spirits around us. We're either in tune with them. If they're out of tune, we have to know how to deal with that negativity. Otherwise, we just hide. And that's not a good way to live your life in general. Imagine if you lived your entire life never reading tarot because you're afraid of spirits being connected to it, but never doing anything because there could be spirits attached to anything and everything that you ever do. Never talking with other people, never shaking hands, never going to a funeral, etc. There's a reason why when you go to church that if you're Catholic in particular, and my wife is Catholic, that they have the incense censers and they're wafting smoke at the parishioners that go there to church. It's a cleansing ritual. And so that cleansing ritual is a part of many, many religions and many practices. And each person should internalize their own process and understand how to deal with that. If you believe the world is full of spirits, you should be ready for that battle. In the same way, if you're going to make a deal with someone in business, you need to be willing to have an argument. That's intrinsic to being a part of the process and being able to stand up for yourself and protect yourself. You have to be able to do those things. Okay. The second point that I want to make is that there are negative readers. And a lot of the negative readers on YouTube and in life, I suppose, are people that are motivated solely by money. And they'll look to manipulate people. They'll use flattery. They'll blame other people because they think that's what you want to hear. They will make you fearful and tell you something like someone's put a curse on you, so you need to buy this or buy that, get this oil. And they utilize people's emotions to sell them things. As I told you, you already have the capacity and the ability to clear yourself if you wish. There are rituals and there are things you can do so. And you should be doing that regardless of tarot or not if you are a person that believes that the world is full of spirits. Okay, there is another aspect of negative readers, and sometimes that they really want you to like them. And so they'll be overly negative towards other people and overly positive to you. So you may have a reading that's not really very good for you. It's kind of like negative feedback. And they'll turn it. And you'll see this sometimes in readers that do like a left and a right reading. So on the left side might be you, and then on the right side might be someone that you're interested in. And if the left side, which is you, shows negative cards, like being sneaky or lying, they'll say, oh, that means people are being sneaky and lying to you. They won't say, is this you? Are you being sneaky and are you lying? Because that's not really a good thing. And conversely, when they look at the other person, they'll be overly critical and overly negative. And let's say, for example, they get a sun card, which is a very positive card. They might say something like, oh, now you see the truth about this person, instead of saying, well, this person seems to be pretty happy and doing well. In that way, they're manipulating the meaning of those things. And in a way, you kind of have to have a coherent reading. But they really need to be consistent in the process. Because sometimes, let's face it, we need to hear things that may not be too great about ourselves that we need to work on. Everybody has things to work on. Another problem here with a negative reader is that they will always seek to be an intermediary for you to perform a service. And I want to suggest to you, you can do this, and you should be doing it if you're interested in it. The reason for that is if you believe in energy and spirit, there's nobody in this world that's more connected to your spirit than you. So if you're interested in your own life, and most people are, which is part of the reason why flattery works so good when you're trying to extort money from people, why not do this on your own? Just order a $20 set of cards and play with it. Do your own readings. Nobody's going to be able to figure out your life better than you will. And of course, you'll see people that say this is such an accurate reading and all this. You'll be amazed how accurate your readings can be if you do them on your own. And when I was young, I started noticing things around me. I used to ride my bike to soccer when I was like 8, started noticing these things. And I've been reading tarot for a very long time, but I never read for other people. I've only ever read for myself. And I think that's what most people should do. If you're interested in this, you should be reading for yourself. Okay, let's look at the third problem with tarot reading. A lot of tarot readers will tell you to do nothing. Let's face it. I mean, you're watching a YouTube video. You're doing nothing. You're contemplating the message that I'm giving you, but that's pretty much it. Then let's say you're watching YouTube videos of readers doing a reading generally. You're still doing nothing, and you are expecting some form of positivity or uniqueness or tie in with a general tarot reading from another person, and you're trying to tie that in with your life. That's like 3 times removed. There's a process, there's another person involved, and there's a TV. Why don't you just do the reading on your own? I know some people don't want to, they don't like to, and if that's the case, then by all means continue with what you're doing. But in general, in my opinion, if you're interested in this and you want to be a part of that process, and I think that's a part of any person's spiritual development, and a spiritual development is a very important thing to me. So if you're getting your spiritual development, for example, let's say you wanted to know about investing in the stock market. I wouldn't ask somebody else to read books about investing in the stock market for me and then just tell me yes or no or something. I would understand that in order for me to successfully invest in the stock market, I need to become fully immersed in the topic and I need to participate. I need to have skin in the game. I need to be driving it. If I do that, the outcome is much more likely to be positive. And that's how we should be handling a lot of things in life. Now, if you watch a lot of tarot readings, you'll see, oh, this person is going to bring you an offer. There's certain cards, usually pages, that indicate that an offer of some sort or a greeting of some sort is going to be made. And a lot of readers will tell you that someone is going to give you a greeting, or someone is going to come talk to you, or someone's going to come meet with you, or someone's going to give you an offer. And that's a problem. Because you need to be driving your own life. You need to be making greetings. You need to be talking with people. You need to be making offers. And so do I. We need to be active participants in our own life. If we know what we want, we have to express that and drive to it. We need to be able to go and talk with other people. We need to be able to shake hands. And we need to be able to discuss things on a rational level. And if you have an interest in another person, you should be trying to talk to them. And if you have an interest in pursuing something greater with someone that you already know or you're with, you should be willing to state that plainly in order to drive the things in your life that are very, very important. Don't wait for these things. I mean, there are times when it's perhaps good to, for example, give someone an idea and then let them sit on it for a while. Let them kind of work it through on their mind. Let them kind of chew on it for a little while. See what they think. See how they feel. Give them time. Let them figure things out. Don't give up on them, and ask them not to give up too. But there still needs to be a catalyst for people's lives. And one of the things that upsets me is so many people are remote and removed from their own lives. They're not pushing through to make sure that their life is a rewarding one for them. Okay? Okay. The next one is that we've already kind of discussed this to some degree, being negative in reading about other people, being overly critical about other people. And this is something that is a problem. I'll call this number 4. Always thinking other people are the problem. And there will be a lot of tarot readers that will always try to point to the flaws in other people. Oh, this person is obviously a narcissist. They'll throw around these psychological terms. They have no foundation whatsoever. Almost everyone has some forms of narcissistic traits. And so it's useless. It's useless information. Almost all of us have bad relationships. That doesn't necessarily mean the other person was a bad person. It generally means that the relationship just didn't work out. There are some really, really bad people out there. Again, who knows why? Maybe they're just bad people. Maybe there's something going on with spirits, in which case we're back at number 1, right? But I do think that, again, it doesn't really serve you to be overly concerned with the aspects of other people. And this is something a lot of bad readers will do. They will focus on other people instead of just telling you a story about yourself. So you can figure out your own strengths and weaknesses. That's really, for me, the benefit of this? What are the strengths and weaknesses, and kind of what are the different points of view of different people that are involved? Okay, and then we'll get to the last negative aspect of tarot reading. There's more, but we're just going to keep it at 5, okay? So the 5th problem is that people will tend to live in a fantasy world. As I've already said, you need to be actively participating in your own life. You need to be realistic about people and yourself, and you need to be willing to put in the effort to drive towards what you want. Now, if you're living in this kind of fantasy world where there's all these imaginary explanations tied to tarot readings, instead of just talking with people to figure out, why did you not want to date me? Or why did this family fall apart? Or why is it that my work isn't going? Why didn't I get that promotion? Oh, well, it's because, you know, the boss, whatever, from tarot readings. You know the reasons. And it's not, if you don't know, it's not hard to find out. Just go talk with people. If you didn't get a promotion, ask why. Why didn't I get a promotion? That kind of direct talk is necessary for people to have a pure understanding, a clear understanding of their life and their place in life and where they're at currently, so they can decide how to build towards where they want to be. And that applies to all aspects of life, from relationships to work to religion, everything. You need to know where you are, and you should be using other real people to serve as the foundation for that assessment. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so that kind of takes care of the negative side. Let's look at the positive side. Let's get into some positives. What are some of the positive things that come from tarot cards and tarot readings? The first, for me anyway, is it's kind of fun. It's kind of a learning process. You figure things out. It's kind of a game. Mentally, it is actuating. It makes me consider things, and I like that. So it's something fun to do. And you shouldn't let people take things away from you that are fun just because they say that they're not good. Now, I'll give you an example of this, and this is something that's very frustrating for me. And before, I discussed this negative aspect of rigid thinkers and how they can impact your life in a negative way and make you stop enjoying your life. Okay? People need to understand that your life needs to be yours, and you need to be enjoying your life in order to be a solid human being and in order to spread that sensation to the people around you. If everybody's just going around doing things that don't bring them any enjoyment in this life, if they just work every day and they're just pretending to be happy and giving people, let's say, if they're just giving people considerate acknowledgement, but they're not actually divinely in tune with one another, it generates this falsity in life in general. It doesn't make them good citizens. It doesn't make them good friends. It doesn't make them good family members. Each person needs to be able to kind of drive towards things that are very, very valuable to them. Okay? Now, one of the things that was upsetting to me for a long, long time was that the Catholic Church was kind of negative on the idea of people having intercourse. Just in general, it wasn't something that was considered to be valuable, which is really strange to me because there were people that I really loved, and for me, that's kind of the switch is when I feel like I want to make someone else's life better, and I'm willing to behave in a selfless fashion, and I want to enjoy my experience in this lifetime with them. Then intercourse wasn't just nothing. It was something that was really sacred to me, that was driving us together and kind of making both of our lives more meaningful. And for someone to step in and kind of make someone feel guilty about that wasn't fair. Does that make sense? So this is something, reading tarot is something that's fun. If it's fun for you, don't let people take that away. It's immersing you in life, And it's perhaps helping you become a better person because you're enjoying your life and maybe you want to share it with other people. A lot of people are into astrology. I don't know if I am, you know. There are aspects to it that make me think, well, if enough people believe it, it could happen, you know. The same way that if enough people believe that a stock is going to crash, that stock's going to crash. The same thing can happen with astrology and with tarot reading. I don't know. But I do know that people need to be able to have certain things in their life that they enjoy. And if this is something that brings you enjoyment, then don't let people take that away from you. Okay? Second thing, this is something that I think is important, is that tarot kind of helps you see things from different points of view. So it tells a story with cards and images. And just like in the story of the Garden of Eden, just as an example, the Garden of Eden, who's at fault for the fall of man within the Garden of Eden? Traditional kind of teaching is that, of course, the serpent is responsible for lying to Adam and Eve and getting them to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge. But is he the only one at fault? Is Eve at fault because she ate first and then she got the man to eat? Is the man at fault because he asked for Eve to be made? Is God at fault? He created the entire conditions for what's happening there. So that point of view of looking at things in a kind of a removed way that involve different points of view is kind of a foundation for developing wisdom within a person. That's very, very valuable. For me, that's why so many stories in the Old Testament are written the way that they are, including the story of Job. Is Job at fault? All these bad things happen to him. People are kind of pointing their fingers at him, saying he's responsible for this and that. And he's saying, no, I'm a good guy. I don't get it. So in that way, I have a religious foundation, but I'm also a very spiritual person. I want to break these down on my own and understand them. And I do the same thing with tarot cards as well. Is that a good or a bad thing? For me, that's a very good thing. And I think if you're doing that, if you're looking at things from a different point of view, and you're trying to make sense of these stories, which is essentially, to me, that's what tarot is. It's kind of just stories. Then it'll help you develop mentally, and it'll help you develop a bit of wisdom in dealing with other people. Does that make sense? And you should, by the way, be doing that in your own life. As a priority, even over tarot, right? I mean, tarot is just, it's a game, it's cards, whatever you want to call it. But you should be doing that and looking at things from different points of view of the people around you anyway. Okay. The third thing is this idea of becoming spiritually active and doing your own readings. So, as I mentioned, right, there are people that are rigidly Orthodox. Let's just call it Orthodox. I'm not picking on the Greek Orthodox Church, but people that just want to be told exactly what to think and exactly what a story means, and they want to be told what's right and wrong, and they want to be able to then push that towards other people. Nothing wrong with this now, okay? Understand that for me, there's a rigid form and there's a more plastic fluid form. Those two need to work together. This spiritual development is an incorporation and a consideration of higher concepts that you're breaking down and you're making them meaningful to you. Okay? So, here's an example, all right? Here's an example. Thou shalt not steal. One of the commandments. What does that mean? What does it mean you shouldn't steal? People steal all the time. Some people steal by not working very hard and still getting paid. Some people steal by cheating on exams in college. Some people steal directly from their family. There's a lot of different kinds of theft. So obviously, if you're a literal reader, you kind of, what's the implication? How do you correct this? How do you resolve that? What's the point of view? What if someone has already been stolen from? What if they're stealing food because someone stole their house and now they're homeless? You know, there's so many different ways of looking at this. It's a spiritual discussion that should be happening within people. And for me, the discussion of spiritual development is aided by consideration of tools like tarot. and understand that there are other processes that do the same thing, like Kabbalah. And of course, there are cards like the Ten of Pentacles that if you're familiar with Kabbalah, you recognize the pattern of the card. So it's there. It's within that process already. Okay, the fourth thing that I want to kind of point out is that tarot kind of helps you understand symbols and dreams and cycles. And allow me to the easiest one is symbols, because there is so much symbolism here throughout this. And by the way, if you don't have J.E. Cirillo's book, A Dictionary of Symbols, you need to get it. It's a wonderful dictionary of symbols. It breaks everything down from multiple point of view, not just from a religious point of view, but also from a cultural point of view and a historical point of view. So that book is wonderful. And if you want to understand symbols, tarot is a great tool for learning symbols. And by the way, if you understand symbols, it can help you in a lot of ways. It can help you make art. It can help you with your reading. It can help you with your writing if you're interested in writing. This is something that can help develop a tool within you, symbolism, that can also help you consider your dreams. And if you're going to become a spiritual person, you need to consider your dreams. You need to consider the symbolism of your dreams and the discussion within yourself that's happening within your dreams. Now, there's been a lot of articles and a lot of fall off in organized religion lately. And I think a big part of that is because people innately feel that organized religions are not serving them in their own development. They're trying to find meaning. They're trying to find some form of positivity. And what they're finding is just simply rigid rule. And that rigid rule is at the expense of their own individual humanity. They don't like it. So they're stepping out. For me, and I do consider myself to be a religious person, people need to be able to develop themselves in a spiritual way. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. You need to tell yourself how to do that. And if you do that, and I'm trying to kind of lay the framework for that here, if you do that for yourself, you'll be a much happier person. You'll be a much more at peace person. And you'll understand the value of a lot of these old books. And of course, I mean, I told you I'm a Christian, so I've read the Bible. I don't know how many times I've read the Bible, how many different parts of the Bible, but I've also read other religious texts. I've studied Buddhism. I've read the Bhagavad Gita. So there's a lot of wisdom in a lot of different documents, and they shouldn't just be thrown away because of the rigidity of certain people affiliated with these different churches. You should be able to accept your own interpretation and incorporate that into yourself and understand the conversation that's happening within you symbolically, and that often occurs in your dreams. So make notes of your dreams when you wake up in the morning. In that way, you become a much more spiritually active person. You'll have better choices guide you through your life because those choices are tied to multiple aspects of yourself. And that process isn't always easy. It's work. But it's very valuable, and tarot can help you understand that. It can also help you understand cycles. Things will happen. Things will end. There will be sometimes negative endings. There'll be things like heartbreak. There'll be things like financial loss. But the idea that this is just tied to a cycle and the cycle continues is a rewarding one. It helps people to avoid despair. In the same way it can build fantasy and perhaps make people feel a little bit pompous, in my opinion, it can also bring people up from feeling like they're worthless and they're not, and their life is meaningless. It's not. And if you understand the nature of the cycle, you'll generally come away from a reading with an understanding to some degree of some of the tools that you have to improve your own life. Okay, so the last point of positivity that I want to discuss is the development of patience. So before in the negatives I said don't be a do-nothing and don't wait for everything. Okay, but there are times where it pays to be patient. And if you develop all these tools and you understand the nature of the interaction between people and between spirits, if you believe in spirits, and you understand the nature of time and you understand cycles, then you know that sometimes it's okay to wait, provided you've taken certain steps. Have you made yourself, have you brought peace to your own life? Have you stated what it is that you're trying to drive towards? Have you been honest with other people around you? Have you been honest with yourself about what it is that's important to you? Have you driven your life with as much honesty as possible? And if so, it's okay then to step back and wait for other people to kind of figure it out. Are they going to come along with you or not? And you should be willing to give them time and understand that that's something that could take people a little while. Anyway, 5 good points, 5 bad points, tarot readings. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll talk to you later.